Well, welcome everybody. We're very excited to have Katie here today. We've gotten to know Katie a little bit better because she has attended a couple of our book clubs, and very excited to hear what she has to say. So I'll let you have the floor, Katie.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me here today. So as she said, my name is Katie Koester, and I am a professional EOS implementer. I help companies implement the EOS system in their business, which stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. It is based on the book Traction by Gino Wickman. And we really help business owners and leaders get better at three things we call vision, traction, and healthy. Vision's all about getting you 100% on the same page with where you're going and how you plan to get there. Traction is helping your leaders become more disciplined and accountable so that you can actually see that vision that you have come to fruition. And then leadership team health is all about making sure that you have a cohesive group of leaders that can actually execute on that vision. Because unfortunately, sometimes they don't all work together. And we find that if we can do that really well at the leadership team level, it really cascades down to the rest of the organization. Everybody is much more disciplined and accountable. They're executing that vision and they enjoy working together. So the types of companies that I typically work with are 10 to 250, and they tend to be very entrepreneurial. And so what I actually want to talk about today is when you're the only person in your business, or it's you and two people in your business. And so that's really what our topic is going to be about today, is that smaller entrepreneur that's just getting started. So a little bit about me. So I was born and raised in Southeast Nebraska. I grew up on a farm, and I really truly believe that farmers were the original entrepreneurs. And I learned that at a very early age from both of my parents. Got a degree in IT and started working at a local business, eventually joined a local construction company, and they operated in a diverse set of industries. So started my career on the IT side about 6 years in, transitioned over to the construction side and worked in the construction side for 7 years. We actually implemented EOS about 5 years ago, excuse me, and I was the integrator, which really oversaw a lot of the operations and things like that. And we watched EOS really help take our business from, 30 million, but also kind of disorganized and not really sure where we were going, to over 65 million in less than 4 years. And it really gave us a vision we could follow. And I found that as I reflected on all the work that I did, I really loved working with leadership teams. I really loved helping them understand what they wanted from their business and then ultimately how to go get it. Because a lot of business owners are visionary. They have fantastic ideas, but they're not sure how to get it done. And so we help with the execution stage of that. So I'm a mom and a baseball mom to two boys, and we spend most of our spring and summer at the baseball field. When we're not doing that, we tend to be outside or at some other kid activity. But I really decided about 6 months ago that I wanted more time to spend with my family. And so I took my passion for EOS and for helping leadership teams, and I decided to start my own business. So with that, the interesting thing about when you decide to start your own business is you got to get really real about, okay, that means you have to do everything. I worked in a company that had 350 employees, and so there was a lot of people to do a lot of things that I didn't know anything about. Marketing, sales. I was really good at operations. I understood finances, but there was a lot of components that I didn't understand, and it became really easy to get overwhelmed really fast. And so in those first couple months, it was kind of like, oh, what am I gonna do with all of the stuff that I think I need to be doing, or I really should be doing, all of that. And lucky for me, I happen to be helping business owners implement a system that helps you do all those things. And so it took me a minute to really realize, just apply what you teach leaders in your own business. which, they had been telling me all along. Apparently it took me a little long to figure it out. We say in EOS, sometimes you have to say something 7 times before you hear it the first time. When we were talking about your leadership of your employees, and it took me a couple times to really realize I could take the EOS system while it's designed and our target market is that 10 to 250 employee company. There are so many great things that EOS can do for the solo entrepreneur. So with that, that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So quick brief history of what is EOS. EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. Gino Wickman was the original founder. He was a lifelong entrepreneur, started at the age of 21. He got called in to run his family business and found it was in need of a turnaround. Did that in about 3 years, worked in the business for 7 years and then retired. And during that time, he really found he had a knack and a passion for the art and science of running a truly entrepreneurial business. And so he started to build together the components of what we now know to be EOS. And it's just simple, practical business tips that we all know. It's tools that we all know that we should be doing, and sometimes we don't. And so with that, he helps create a system for entrepreneurs that will allow them to apply that in their business. So with that, a lot of what we're going to talk about today is really based on the EOS model. And I teach this to all of my leadership teams, but I want to put a little bit of a different spin on it today and talk about how you can apply this when it's just you or just you and one other person in your business. And so we believe that there are 6 key components to your business and any business. We believe that there is a vision component, people component, data component, issues, process, and traction. And to the extent that you can strengthen all 6 of these key components, you can get everything that you want from your business. Now, while we would love to all see you get to 100% in every single component, it's probably not going to happen, and you're probably going to get stuck on perfection instead of progress. And so in the work that I do with my leadership teams, 80% is or better is always the goal. So we're going to break down each of these components just a little bit. So the very first one is vision, and this is the one we'll spend the fair amount of time on. So on your seats, you have a copy of what we call the Vision Traction Organizer. And if you get one thing out of this session, I hope that you will take this and use this and spend some time with it, because we really believe that you can simplify your vision down into 2 pages, because a lot of times people will put together these really complex business plans and then they go on a shelf and nobody ever looks at it. And so we believe that you can capture your vision with 8 questions that we capture in the Vision Traction Organizer. So we're going to go through each one. So the very first is core values. And core values is all about who you are at your core. What do you want from the culture of your business? And we take our clients through a discovery exercise, because everybody has core values. They already exist. You don't have to make them up. You just have to discover them. And then it's really important that you take those core values and you weave them into everything that you do in your business. And as you bring on employees, it's really important that you're making sure they fit your core values. That means they're a right person in your organization. As a solopreneur or a very small business, the way that I've looked at this is, what are the guiding principles I have to hold myself to? Because there's not someone that is checking in with me as the business owner. Now, we're all accountable to our clients, and in different ways, but what is the culture that I want to create in the world for myself? And so I use those core values to really think about who I am in the market and who I am as a person, and making sure that I stay aligned with those things. The next one is the core focus, and this is all about what are you absolutely best at and what do you love to do. And to the extent we can keep you laser focused on the sweet spot of your business, you're going to go further, faster in your business. And so we get really clear about what is your core focus. And so, we at EOS, we are really focused on helping entrepreneurs get everything they want from their business. And so that means that we make decisions and we really have conversations around what's going to do that best. And so there's a lot of things that we tailor our business around to really make sure that's what we're getting. As a person that's starting their own business, there's a lot of opportunities that are presented to you. A lot of people want to sell you things. A lot of people want to help you start your business. You got to get really clear on, why did you start the business? What's your purpose, cause, or passion? What do you do? What is absolutely what you're best at? And that can be your, North Star per se, to really make sure that you don't get distracted by shiny stuff, and keeps you on the right track. And so we use the core focus for that. The 10-year target is all about, what's your number one business goal? This is, what's your long range business goal? What are you striving for? And time is a little bit subjective. You can make it anywhere between 5 and 30 years. Ultimately, it's up to you. But this, as a person, that's building their businesses, where do I want to be in 10 years? It's long range thinking, and it helps you think about not just the day to day. What are the decisions I need to be making to get me there in 10 years? And so really important to spend some time, because a lot of times we talk to business owners and it's, what do you want from this business? And they don't have an answer. And it's like, well, why did you get into business in the first place? And I have found that sometimes we get so busy doing that we don't actually remember why we started the business in the first place. And so it's really important to stay in touch with that 10-year target, or that number one business goal, because it really allows you to know, where am I going? And then when you have people on board, they know where you're going and they can help you get there. So next is the marketing strategy. And marketing strategy is all about, who are your ideal clients and what are you saying to them? So we all know we can spend a lot of money on marketing, and it's important that we really figure out who is our target market, who is the absolute list that we should be going after. So I kind of shared at the beginning, 10 to 250 people. I really look for entrepreneurs that are open-minded and they want to grow. It's a demographic, psychographic, and geographic list of the people that you absolutely want to go after, because then you don't have to waste your time and money on everybody else, because they might not be a fit for you. So then from there, once you know who you're after, you can get really clear on what you're going to say to them. So your 3 uniques is, what makes you better than everybody else in the market, better than the competition, and getting really clear on that really helps you stay in those lines and know that, hey, this is what I'm really great at. I don't have to be everything to everyone. This is what makes me unique, and the right customers will find me. From there is a proven process. This is just a 1-page visual of, from the time a customer thinks about doing business with you all the way through when they've been a long time customer. And I think as we get started in our business, there's a little bit of making it up as you go. And getting a proven process really forces you to think about, what's the experience I want my customer to have? And then it will hold you accountable to delivering that experience and aligning all of your systems, all of your processes, all of the things that you do around those things. And then your guarantee. This is something that you as a business owner can put in place to reduce the fear of adoption. For example, in EOS, our guarantee is, if you don't get value out of the sessions that we spend together, I don't want you to pay me. Because if I'm not delivering on my promises and I'm not delivering value to you, I shouldn't be paid for that. And so that's our guarantee. From there, we bring that 10-year target down to a 3-year picture. And we start with your revenue, profit, and measurables. And this isn't a huge strategic plan that ends up on a shelf. It really is, what does my company need to look like in 3 years to achieve my business goals, which is typically your 10-year target. And this has been really helpful for me as, a solo entrepreneur, because I really had to think about, okay, where do I want to take this business in 3 years? So I came from a larger business and I worked a lot of hours. And the thing that I really had to get clear about is, why did I do this? why did I want to start this business? So in 3 years, when I'm wildly successful,
Right.
how do I make sure I don't lose track of that? And so it doesn't always have to be about being the biggest, being the best. Sometimes your 3-year picture looks like, I take 4 vacations a year. That's on mine. Because last year I took none. And so it's really important to make sure that you're in touch with what you want from your business. Sure, absolutely. If you want to grow, put how many people you want. Put how much money you want to make. Put those things. But this is a really good guiding principle on the days that it gets hard. Nobody answers the phone. Nobody wants to talk to you, and 10 people have told you no. This is what you're striving for. And so it's really, really helpful, and it gives you that vision. So from there, we've set a really great vision. We got to flip it over, and we got to make it happen. And that is where we find a lot of entrepreneurs have all these great visions, and vision without traction is hallucination. And so it's really important that we execute on it. And so the first thing that we figure out is, what's your 1-year plan? Well, if you did the work in your 3-year picture, it's pretty easy to figure out a 1-year plan. What's the next thing I need to do? What's 33% to 3 years? And so then you come together and you figure out, what's 5 to 7 goals for my business for the next year. And it's really important that you only set actually 3 to 7, because less is more. All of us have so many things in our business that we're supposed to do, especially when we're by ourselves. We can't do it all. What happens is, when everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And so then nothing gets done in your business, you're frustrated, and it's really important that we take the time to figure out what's absolutely highest priority for the next year to push my business forward, to get me to that 3-year, to get me to that 10-year. And so you sit down, and I had to really think about this. You know, I tend to be really goal-oriented, and I want to achieve, and I want it now. I don't have a lot of patience. My husband has really laughed through this process, because he's like, it is teaching you patience in spades. And he watches me get frustrated every single day. But the important thing when you put this on a piece of paper is to realize, hey, let's be real. What's really achievable in the next year? That's what some pie in the sky. I always tell my clients, if it's on this piece of paper, it means that you are committing to yourself and to your leadership team that you're going to do it. So if it's a pipe dream and you have no intentions of actually working towards it, don't put it on this piece of paper, because it won't happen. And so what ends up on this piece of paper has to be absolutely what you want for your business, because you're going to do the work to go achieve it. From there, once you have your 1-year plan, we then move into what we call a 90-day world, which is rocks. And we really figure out, what do I have to do in the next 90 days to achieve or push me towards those 1-year plans? And we find that we come in and we look at that every single 90 days, because after about 90 days, we start to lose focus. And the biggest thing that I have noticed in solopreneurship is we can talk ourselves out of everything. We are the most logical person on the planet. So, for example, you know, I set goals June 1st, and about August, I was like, yeah, those were wrong. I never should have done that. Yeah, no, I just need to work harder. And so the important thing to know is to get really clear about what truly has to happen, and know that you set that as your priority for the next 90 days, and that is what you should be working on, because it's going to push your business forward. And having the discipline and accountability to know you can't change that goal in the middle of the month. Now, there's things that happen from time to time. I remember when I was in my corporate job, you know, there was a thing called COVID that happened about 3 weeks after we set our quarterly rocks. We had to shift gears. Those things absolutely happen, but if it's a situation where you're just a little behind and it means you have to put a little more effort, that's not the case where you should change it. You truly set that rock, you truly set that priority, because you knew that's how far you wanted to get in the next 90 days. From there, and the last thing on the VTO is your issues list. So we all have issues in our business, and it's funny because issues can have a really negative connotation. Issues are just things in our business we have to deal with. They can be opportunities, they can be advantages, they can be all kinds of things. They can truly be an issue in your business, But you got to get those out of your head and on a piece of paper so you can solve them. And we teach our clients a system to identify what's the absolute true root of the issue. If you have somebody to discuss it with, that's great. Sometimes I discuss it with myself, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a big whiteboard person, so we'll write it all out and figure out what's going on and then solve it. And you're always solving for the long-term greater good of the organization. But you can't solve everything all the time. And so what we use this for is sometimes there's issues in our organization that, hey, we can't solve it for the next 90 days, but we don't want to lose it. So one for me is I want a session space. I can't afford a session space right now, nor does it make sense for my business, but it's on my issues list that every 90 days I'm gonna evaluate, okay, is it time to think about a session space? And then I can continuously come back to it, and someday I'll be able to solve that issue. So.
And what do you mean by a session space?
So when in EOS, what we do is we do all day leadership team sessions.
Okay.
And so really looking for a place, with a conference room, whiteboards, things like that, I can hold those spaces.
Okay.
So that's what a session space is. So we're still just on the first of the 6. I promise the rest to go faster. So in your vision, it's really good to spend some time with this document and really think about it. I actually have mine filled out and I have it on the wall in my home office because I really want to make sure that I'm coming back to it. Am I making decisions in alignment with that, or am I talking myself out of my success? And so it's really important that you keep aligned with what you said you were going to do. And I review this every quarter. Sometimes I review it every day, depending on what I'm trying to work on, but I review it at least every quarter. Now, as you get bigger, there's a really important piece of this. As you have employees and you're growing your business, you have to share it with your employees because you want them to see themselves in it. You want them to buy in it and help you get that vision. And so the other tool and discipline we teach our clients is making sure that we share that vision and that they share that vision with you, because that's how you know you're getting those right people. So that is the vision component, and answering those 8 questions, making sure it's shared by everyone in your organization, even when it's just you, is what 100% strong looks like. So the next key component that we teach is the people component, and people can be really, really hard in the beginning when it's just you, because sometimes you can't fire yourself. I don't have a handout for this one, but the thing that I want to share about this, so we say right people, right seat, you have to have both. Right people are people who share your core values. Right seat is people that have the God-given talent ability to do the job well, and they truly get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. You have to have both. And so it's really important that you align those right people, right seats. Now, for what this looks like for me as a single business owner is I had to get really clear about what are the seats in my organization. I sit in all of them right now, but what are the ones that I don't want or I'm not good at? And so I did this. I built out my organization in what we call the accountability chart, and I had a really serious talk with myself about what do I really suck at, and that's marketing, by the way. I don't know anything about websites, but I have friends in the space, and so what I got really clear about in my people component is what am I delegating first? When I can, what am I getting rid of first? Because these are all things that have to be done in your business. They're all seats in your business, but I need to fire myself from doing my marketing because I'm not good at it. And so as you're looking at your business, getting really clear on what the seats are as you start to grow, that can help you understand what you need to let go of. And having clarity around, hey, I don't love this. It doesn't bring me joy. I want to go do this over here. It just makes it so much more simple instead of being completely overwhelmed and like, I need help, but I don't know what help. Get clear on what help you need when the time comes. So that's how I strengthen my people component. The next is the data component. And we actually teach 2 things, scorecard and measurables, because what gets measured gets done. And this is probably one of the most simple tools that I teach my leadership teams, and what they realize is if they can get really clear on the handful of metrics, like 5 to 15, and 15 is probably too many, that truly drive their business, they can really start to impact those numbers. And sometimes the question we ask our leadership teams is, how do you know if you had a good week? You know, we run around as entrepreneurs and we do stuff all day long and we do stuff all week long. At the end of the week, how did we know if we accomplished anything? And so we help our leadership teams get really clear on what are the leading indicators that truly drive what you want in your business, and then you measure that every single week. And you have a really clear conversation with yourself about, are you on track or off track, and what are you gonna do to get yourself back on track? And so it's really important that you have a scorecard in your business. As you grow, you can use measurables to really have your employees help you keep those numbers on track. So from there, the fourth key component is the issues list. And as we talked about in the VTO, this is just getting all that stuff out of your head on a piece of paper and figuring out when you're gonna deal with it. So I have issues lists in my business. I have a short-term issues list that I deal with every single week, and then I have a long-term one that I keep on my VTO, and that's anything 90 days out. Anything I know that I can't deal with, but I don't want to forget about it, and someday I'll deal with it. And it's not an avoidance technique, it's actually a prioritization technique, because you can't deal with everything. You know, there's no point in me spending my time and energy on a session space right now, because I need a couple more clients before that fiscally makes sense for me. And there's wonderful spaces in Lincoln that will allow you to use their conference room for very inexpensive. So that being said, the other thing we teach in the issues list is IDS, which I talked about earlier, identifying, discussing, and solving. How many people have sat in a meeting and you have discussed the hell out of an issue and you never solved it? And we see it all the time. And so really making sure you understand what is the absolute root cause of that, and then putting an action plan, taking it to do to really solve that. And what this a lot of times looks like in my business is brutal honesty with myself of, okay, you subconsciously know what the core problem is. You know what the root of the issue is. And having a conversation about what you actually have to do to solve it. Because a lot of times you already know, but you don't want to do it. And so that's where it's really important to, hey, if you're not gonna do what it takes to solve that issue, it's not gonna be solved. You can think you crossed it off some sort of magical list, but it's not gonna be solved. And so really getting good at knowing to be successful in business, you have to set your issues up and you have to knock them down and make them go away for the long-term greater good of the organization. And if you're not willing to do those things, they're gonna continue to pop up. So from there, the fifth key component is the process component. And this is something that I have a huge passion for. And if I just have a plug for every small business, get your processes documented early. And don't do a 200-page SOP manual, 500 pages. It doesn't get used. What we teach our clients is, what are the 20% of things that produce 80% of the results? What is it that you're doing in your business? Because when that day comes that you can add another employee, you're so much better off when you already have your processes down. You can bring that to speed so much faster. And so, you know, it's all in our heads and we think, oh, we're doing just fine. But when you get busy and you get more and more clients, what you will find is you cut corners or you forget things because we have 100 things going on in our head. And so when you have some of that time in your entrepreneurial journey, that you can think about what's the right process for this, what's gonna be most efficient, best way of doing this, get that down on paper. Train yourself to follow that, and then continuously evaluate it, because as you grow as a business, it's going to change. You know, maybe you were the one stuffing all the envelopes, and then you grow enough that you don't have to do that, or you pay a service to do that. Put that in your process and continuously evolve it. But the important thing about process is you have to get really clear about what's the best and most efficient way to do it. And I will tell you, sometimes you have to have a serious talk with yourself about, am I just doing things and I could be more efficient? And this is just making me feel better. Like I'm doing something in my business, but it's not actually producing a result, because ultimately your process should produce for you what you want in your business. So that's another great thing that I have continued to work on. Finally is traction. So it's no coincidence that vision is at the top and traction is at the bottom, because ultimately we've got to implement all this. We got to do things to produce revenue in our business, to produce that growth in our business. And so we really do believe in the rocks. And those are 90-day priorities, because we live in a 90-day world. Every 90 days, especially as you're growing, things are changing. You want to make sure that you're evaluating that and getting those things that are most important and priority to your business. And then a meeting pulse. And this is going to sound weird, but I meet with myself every single week at 11 o'clock on Mondays, and I go through what we call our level 10 agenda. I check in on my rocks. I check in on my scorecard. I don't have any employee headlines right now. Sometimes I'll make a joke about my husband if he happens to be working from home that day. But then I spend the rest of the time really looking at and having a conversation with myself about what's on my issues list. And there's a lot of accountability groups out there and things like that. And so I do have an accountability partner that I also get with, because, you know, talking to yourself, people start to ask questions. But you as a business owner have to take some sacred time to really think on the business and not just in the business all the time. What do you need to do to remove the roadblocks in your business? And so while it may be funny that I meet with myself, as you get bigger as an organization, we teach our leadership teams you have to have that meeting pulse every single week, because if you can get together in a room, solve those issues for the long-term greater good of the organization, it's going to actually make sure that you have traction in the organization. So from that, as I said before, those are the 6 key components of your business. You're always trying to get 100% strong, but as a solo business owner or a small business, sometimes you have to modify a little bit to really figure out what works best for you. But there is an underlying current to a lot of this, and it's discipline and accountability. And some of us do a great job with that, some of us don't. And I think as business owners, it's a muscle that we continuously have to strengthen, and it will make you go so much further. So in my business, we talked about proven process. This is mine. So when I have a leadership team, I actually come in and do a free 90-minute workshop with them, and we talk about EOS. We talk about the tools, we talk about them, and we talk about what it looks like to implement EOS in their business. And implementing it in their business looks like starting with a focus day. And we help those business owners get really clear about where are they hitting the ceiling. Because as business owners, we all hit the ceiling. We get frustrated, we get stuck. What does that look like? And then we set their accountability chart. We figure out what are the seats in their business and who belongs in those seats. We set their first set of rocks. What do you guys need to get done in the next 90 days? We teach them the meeting pulse to really make sure that they're running that meeting, and then we help them get a scorecard so they can actually figure out where are they at right now. Because if you don't know where you're at right now, you can't change it ultimately. And so we figure out where they're at and how we can change that. Then we spend 2 days with them building their vision and really figuring out what are their core values, what is their core focus, and the other 8 questions that they walk out of that 3rd meeting with a completed VTO. And then from there, I facilitate their quarterlies and annual planning sessions, and we really just go into execution mode. We come in the room every 90 days and we really figure out what went well in the last 90 days, what didn't, what did we learn, are we still fully aligned with our vision? We set the next set of priorities and they walk out and they go execute in their business. So with that, as I shared at the beginning, you know, EOS is really all about vision, traction, and healthy. And vision is where are you going and how do you plan to get there? Traction is about focus and discipline, and then healthy is all about making sure you have cohesive and functional leadership team members that work well together. And so I do offer free 90-minute meetings for business owners that really want to consider if working with an EOS implementer is right for them or if EOS is right for their business. And so that's something that I also always offer. I did bring a couple copies of the book Traction. If anybody's interested, by all means grab one. If they're all gone, leave me your card and I'll send you one. But that has been one of the biggest things that has helped me as a small business is really getting clear on where do I want to go and how am I going to get there. Thank you for your time.
We ask our speakers a couple different questions.
Absolutely.
So what gets you perked up for your business or perked up for your day? What gets you going?
Yeah, so my favorite days are always when I get to do a full day session with the leadership team, because I get to see them start to see traction in their business. So that's a really big thing that makes me excited. The other thing is I have seen this impact my life and a couple other people's lives, even on a personal level. I've talked to some business owners that have found this sometimes, unfortunately, after a divorce, sometimes hopefully before, and it's changed their personal life because they figure out how to prioritize in their business, they figure out how to get things done, they figure out how to delegate. And so for me, what really gets me going in the morning is knowing that I am helping people. I'm helping people get what they want, but ultimately live a better life.
And what are some of your favorite local restaurants, places that you like to go, or local businesses that you like to get them your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love Venue. That's one, and so we're baseball people, so we frequent Good Sense quite a bit. I think that, so my favorite food in the world is cheeseburgers, so Honest Abe's is always my favorite. And then I have a few friends that have some local businesses. So Smile Innovations Dental, she is a local business, and I actually know Renee with True North and a couple others like that. But ultimately, I really appreciate businesses that have invested in the community, and that has been probably one of my favorite parts about starting this business, is really figuring out the cool things that are happening in Lincoln and the business owners that are behind it.
Does anybody have any questions for Katie?
Yeah. In adapting to like a new this vision traction organization, what's the most successful thing that the entrepreneur what does it look like to adapt to a new process with working with you on stuff like this? Like what are the most successful traits, I guess, for the entrepreneur to have when you need to step it up to really find something that works and it's a difference?
Yeah, so we work with, so initially my conversations start with the business owner, who tends to be a very visionary person. They have tons of ideas and everything like that, and they really struggle with execution. And so when we work together, we teach them a concept called letting go of the vine, where we help them understand their God-given talent is having those visions and really seeing the future that some of us can't see. And we help them understand that they have to partner with what we call an integrator that can actually execute that vision in their business, and it frees them up to go be themselves, frees them up. I have visionaries that have gotten to the point where they travel 50% of the year. And they're really good at big relationships. They're really good at, marketing the business, having those conversations, but they feel a sense of guilt that they're supposed to be working in the business. And when we go through this, they can get their vision out on a piece of paper. Other people can see it and start to work on it. Sometimes they'll go through a weird phase of I'm not needed anymore. What they tend to find later is, oh no, they need my ideas, and not all of them are good. I always say, out of 10, maybe 1 is good. But it's that one that's gonna take them to the moon. And so really when we work together, we find the business kind of is chaos because everybody's just shooting from the hip, and then that leader gets that clarity, the team gets clarity, and they can actually execute on something and it doesn't change every 5 seconds.
Right.
Yeah. Other questions?
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Well, I think, studying business and everything, in the process, a lot of owners or whatever find that they are reluctant to give over that control, that only they can do it. They can, and as a parent, okay, I don't want my child doing this because I can do it better, quicker, whatever. But I think that's one of the issues that a lot of owners, which I'm sure you've come across, find that, okay, like a friend of mine said, his son asked him, well, why aren't you mowing the lawn like so-and-so's dad? He says, because I make $250 an hour. I can hire somebody to mow that lawn for me.
Yep, yep. And that is something that, you know, every entrepreneur and leader is gonna go through differently. And their ability to get there determines their success a lot of times, because they have to understand that they are the bottleneck on their business. And if they don't wanna get bigger and they just wanna stay them, that's okay. And if they're successful and that they're getting everything they want, that's fine. We're just trying to answer the question of, what do you want from your business? And if that's what they want from their business, they've achieved it, that's awesome. We just tend to work with the businesses that want to go about that.
Absolutely. Any other questions for Katie? Thank you, Katie, for coming
Absolutely.
and for bringing treats and books.
Yep,
That's an
absolutely.
added benefit. So thank you all for coming, and we will plan on seeing you next week. And I did not look to see who next week's speaker is. Oh, he's right here. I'm so sorry, Philip.
I can see you're really excited.
No, that is not the case. You've heard me before when I do not look at who next week's speaker is. I'm very sorry. Philip will be our speaker. He will be our speaker next week. So I hope all of you can come back. And thank you again, Katie, for coming.
So thank you for having me.